Hey guys, good afternoon. Good to be back here in Amica Mutual Pavilion. Yeah, good, second tune-up for us before we hook it up, for real November 3rd. We got to, we start our season off, with some good teams. Holy Cross is a team that beat this Harvard team last year. Virginia Tech's a really good team, New Hampshire, at Colorado. So we wanted to test ourselves as much as we could in the non-league. And Harvard with the returning continuity that they had, Pittsburgh with the age, experience, and size. I thought it was a, we didn't play our best in these two games, but I feel like we learned a lot. There were some areas we were better today than we were against Pittsburgh, and kind of like a boat with a bunch of holes. We learned some new things we got to continue to improve upon. But our guys found a way, which is good. Our defense, it's going to be a lot of attention to our defense over the next week and a day before we get ready for the Holy Cross Crusaders on Monday night here in Providence.
Kim, in terms of turnovers forced and steals, just pleased with the improvement from the Pittsburgh game to today?
Yeah. We were active. We were in our spots. The first half. Not so much the second half. And that's a hard thing to do. That's a really hard thing to do, to play with a lead and still have that same level of intensity and focus. And give Harvard a lot of credit. They took it to us. They didn't allow us to set our press up in the second half. But we were active defensively. But when we didn't get a turnover, they made a bucket. They shot 56% in the second half. So, I'm looking forward to watching the film and seeing how we can improve.
How much is that a point of emphasis, trying to get more steals and kind of, get out in transition, knowing the way you want to play?
Yeah, it's about possessions for us. We want to generate, more possessions than the other team. I was, complaining about losing possession game after possession game, and time to get more possessions. And we did tonight. I'll see it, when we watch it. But yeah.
Were those rebounding numbers a little bit glaring to you?
No, they weren't. They weren't. We watched an edit right before the game of poor box outs in practice, superimposed over Harvard's PJ and Batiste and Hinton getting offensive rebounds last season. Mixed in with some clips of Josh Oduro and Devontae Gaines and Devin Carter knocking people's heads off with box outs. So no, I'm not surprised. Our box outs, and defensive rebounding has a ways to go. And I was disappointed. But I wasn't surprised.
That all a mindset, boxing out?
It is, and as we're now a second season in a row now, and not so much our first season, but putting a much higher emphasis on offensive rebounding, it is a little bit of a how much do you coach it in practice, because we're valuing the offensive rebounds, but obviously in games us getting offensive rebounds, but in practice is us versus us. Every good steal is a bad ball security possession. Every offensive rebound is a bad box out in practice. But we'll clean it up.
Tim, you said you learned in between the two exhibitions. Could you expand on that? What exactly did you learn?
Yeah, I'll get to see exactly when I can dive into the numbers for sure. We gave way too many layups against Pittsburgh, and the vast majority was from our ball screen defense. Our ball screen defense was better today. Our one-on-one defense took a step back. We didn't do a good job flowing to our next action if we couldn't get a paint thrust in transition. We didn't do a good job against Pitt. We did a better job today of that. I feel like, again, so 85 points, and our two best players, really still haven't had the type of efficient nights that we expect them to have, that they have every day in practice, So it's some positives in here. I'll get to see them more when I watch the film.
Kim, shot quality perspective, felt like some of those threes early in the second half might have been kind of quick. Just interested in your thoughts on that.
Who was shooting them? Who was shooting them?
Fox put a couple up pretty quick.
No, we want those. We want our shooters shooting them. If they feel good about it, shoot them. I don't think we haven't shot enough threes in the last 2 games. We've not shot well, and we haven't shot enough. Want those guys, give those guys a ton of freedom, to put them up.
Coach, you mentioned that.
On defense, first half you did a good job denying the 3. Second half you were scrambling. They had you scrambling on defense a little bit out of position. They had a lot more open threes. What were they doing that sort of put you in that position?
They were doing a good job, converging to their transition offense. When we were scoring in the first half, we had an opportunity to set our press up, which I think stymied them a bit. But again, how you start is how you finish. We were scoring in the second half and kind of standing around or complaining to officials and not getting matched up. They were playing as aggressive as us to transition. And just, we've been talking about it. Sometimes basketball is as simple as if you run hard. If you run hard to offense, you'll find yourself in front of the play. If you run hard to defense, you'll find yourself ahead of the play. When you don't run hard to defense, you're behind the play. And good teams get you in rotations. They keep you in rotation. Those are the possession where it's a paint touch, spray out, boom, 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 3. And you could sometimes go back to film and literally attribute it to someone's first 3 steps getting back, or lack thereof, in the second half, I feel like.
Coach, you mentioned the difference in the lineups for last week being more set up before the game in terms of how you brought people in, and this seemed to be more of like a fluid substitution rate for you. Would you kind of say there was sort of a game plan you were following, or it was just more situational on the fly, as if it was like?
Yeah, we coached the first game with a minute allocation set that I wasn't gonna change. I think it was, Brian Tubaldi's coming from the NBA, and the NBA is a machine, and the rotations are set and it ain't changing. But I think like Duncan Powell was like 3 for 3 at Pitt, but like my sheet said he had to come out, so today we tried to make it a bit more with kind of some wiggle room with those rotations. But again, it's easier with 9 than it is 10. Obviously Corey was out today. So yeah, at the end of the game, I would have loved for Pateras, Nil, Juke, to play, but we didn't do the job to give ourselves a comfortable enough lead to get those guys some game action.
Kim, Jameer Jones, 14 points, 15 minutes. What are your expectations for him? Seemed like he jumped out the gym today.
Yeah, just to keep getting better every single day, and he's very, very talented, and it's raw ability, things you cannot teach or coach. I can't take credit for teaching him how to dunk. He's really good and talented, but it's about the fundamental things, the detail things, running hard, playing in the stance, boxing out. That's my 3 for Jameer Jones. If he can do those 3 things, run hard to offense, run hard to defense, play in the stance, and box out, he has the freedom to play and be aggressive. He got subbed out early in the second half for a no box out, and I thought he responded really well to that.
Kim, is there an update on Corey?
Yeah, he's fine. It was more precautionary. I think he could have went. He's feeling something in his upper right leg, but I think he's fine.
What about Rich?
Rich is he hit his head. He hit his head, so he's in concussion protocol right now.
But to have only, I think, only 7, 8 turnovers without Corey, just, how was that something to build on?
Yeah, the speed in which we want to play. We really, looked at the inventory of the plethora of our turnovers from last season. It wasn't from playing with pace. It was from a slow tempo and pace. So we're trying to go. We practice that way. We prepare that way. We train that way to get those guys to make decisions at pace. And again, shoot it. If you can't turn it over if you shoot it.
Was that an emphasis in the portal this year? So it seemed like whoever got a rebound could bring the ball up the court, create a shot for themselves or somebody else.
Yeah, multiple handlers is what we want. We don't want anyone coming back for the ball. We want to go.
Kim, it was kind of earth-shattering, I guess, college basketball this week, G League player going to Louisville. How much has, for you and your industry, how much is that something else to consider now, maybe in terms of building a roster?
Yeah, player acquisition is it's wide open, and I challenge our staff, our athletic director, our compliance director, all hands on deck as we're searching to acquire new players. It's a big world out there, and any way we can get the best players to Providence, we will.
Coach, at the end of last year, Osman seemed to have trouble getting into foul trouble. He did the same thing at Pitt. Today he's only had one foul in the first couple of minutes. Was that a point of emphasis, or is there something?
Yeah, discipline, playing without fouling is important. Again, like the fouls are probably usually a byproduct from something earlier. You're probably jumping for a shot fake because you didn't have a high hand. You're probably out of position and recovering late because you lost vision. So it's about just, again, he's a baby, he's a sophomore, just helping him become a better player.
Kind of going off that, it'll be forgotten as we start games here shortly, but Osman started the game with a putback off an offensive board to start the game. Just dominating from the start. How important is that going to be for him to chew?
It's great. I mean, he rarely has bad games, Osman. He had one of his worst at Pitt, and you don't see it a lot. He's really been efficient, protecting our rim, finishing inside, rebounding, defending. And it's just with Osman, the mindset and focus just to get better every day. Never get comfortable, just continue to improve. And when he's on the court, good things usually happen. Thanks, guys.